Get down! Hands behind your back, now! The order cracks through Terminal C like a gunshot. Travelers freeze. Coffee cups hang mid-air. A child starts crying. Maya Jackson's cheek hits the cold tile. Her sunglasses skid away. A knee drives into her spine. Solid, unrelenting. Zip ties bite her wrists before she can even think. Blood floods her mouth. She's bitten her tongue. Above her boots, radio static, the shuffle of a crowd forming. Phones rise, dozens of them. Black mirrors catching the light. Security report. Metallic object right hip region. Subject refused additional screening. Escalation protocol engaged a woman's voice, TSA supervisor. Flat. Practiced. Already defending herself. That's not, Maya starts, but the knee presses harder. Don't move. Don't speak. He's close enough that she smells the coffee on his breath. Her grandfather's silver compass slips from her jacket, the one that never failed to point true north. It hits the floor with a sharp ping and spins, the needle wobbling. A boot kicks it intentional or not, and it slides under a trash can lost to shadow. Overhead, the PA drones. Flight 2847 to Atlanta, now boarding at gate C14. Everything sounds normal except for the woman pinned to the floor while a forest of phones records her. Maya steadies her breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. The method that's kept her alive for 14 years. Don't react. Don't escalate. Let them finish. Stop filming someone yells, nobody moves, screens keep glowing. Somewhere a notification chime rings. Then another. Then a cascade. Maya stares at the dark gap beneath the trash can where the compass vanished. The needle should have stopped by now. The lock on the holding room door clicks twice. Silence. Maya Jackson sits with wrists still zip-tied behind her back. 17 minutes now. The plastic cuts deeper every time she shifts position. Her face still hurts where it hit the tile. She can taste blood when she swallows, but she keeps her breathing steady. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Don't give them anything. The door opens. Officer Adam Powell walks in carrying a clipboard. Officer Gabriel Martinez follows, staying close to the wall. His body cam still on. Little red light blinking on his chest. Good, let it record. Powell drops the clipboard on the metal table. Loud. The sound echoes. He sits down across from her, leans back, crosses his arms. The posture of someone who has all the time in the world. He starts with the questions. What was she carrying? Why did she refuse screening? What was she hiding? Maya answers each one calmly. Nothing prohibited. I didn't refuse. I completed the screening. Metal fragments from an old injury. He doesn't care about the answers. She can see it in his eyes. He's building a narrative, and facts aren't going to rewrite it. He circles back, asks the same questions with different wording, tries to catch her in contradictions, suggests she's lying, implies she bought fake documentation. Calls her combative, aggressive uses every word except the ones that would sound too obvious on a recording. She stays calm, corrects his mischaracterizations. Asks repeatedly for him to verify her credentials. He ignores every request. Then he switches tactics, leans forward, gets friendly, starts talking about how she could have avoided all this, could have been polite, could have cooperated. Someone like you, he says, and the emphasis on like makes his meaning clear coming through here, acting like the rules don't apply. That's the problem. She looks directly at him. The rules do apply. That's why I'm asking you to follow them. Wrong answer. His face flushes. He stands up, looms over the table, raises his voice, starts talking about consequences, about disrespect, about how she'd made him look bad in front of all those cameras. And there it was. Not security, not procedure. Pride. She'd embarrassed him in public, and this was payback. Martinez shifts uncomfortably by the wall, opens his mouth. Powell shoots him a look. Martinez closes his mouth, looks at the floor. Same choice he'd made at the checkpoint. Powell picks up his pen, starts writing, narrating as he writes. Voice loud enough for Martinez's body cam. Subject claims federal credentials. Refuses verifiable identification. Exhibits hostile demeanor. Shows signs of mental instability. Each word a brick in the wall. Each line another layer of justification. Maya watches him construct the lie in real time. Official forms, official language, the kind of documentation that would follow her through the system. Officer Powell, she says quietly. My credentials are in my bag. Federal clearance verifiable through multiple databases. This can be resolved in under 5 minutes. He doesn't look up. We'll verify what we need when I'm ready. He keeps writing. Every motion deliberate, every word chosen. His phone buzzes on his belt. He ignores it. It buzzes again, then again. A cascade of notifications. He pulls it out, glances at the screen. His expression changes. Jaw tightens. Martinez sees it. What is it Powell doesn't answer, just keeps scrolling. Face getting redder with every swipe. Maya can't see the screen, but she can guess. The videos. The ones spreading for the past 20 minutes while she sat here. The ones showing her face down on airport tile, showing Powell's knee in her back while she wasn't moving. Thousands of views by now. Maybe hundreds of thousands. Powell's problem isn't in this room anymore. It's everywhere. He shoves the phone back in his pocket, looks at Maya with something new in his eyes. Not anger anymore. Worry. Adam Martinez says quietly. Maybe we should shut up, Gabriel. But his voice has changed. Less confident, more defensive. He sits back down, picks up his pen, puts it down again, looks at the clipboard, looks at Maya, looks at the door. Calculating. Running scenarios, trying to figure out how to turn this around. The fluorescent light buzzes. The clock on the wall ticks. Outside, faintly gate announcements continue. Travelers. Life moving forward while hers stays frozen. Maya keeps her breathing steady. She knows something Powell doesn't understand yet. He thinks the walls of this room protect him. Thinks his badge and clipboard will be enough. He has no idea what's coming. Every second he keeps her here, he's digging deeper. She could have ended it, could have pulled rank, could have watched him scramble, but she needs him to finish, needs the documentation, needs him to show on camera, on record, exactly what happens when the system doesn't recognize one of its own. So she sits there hands bound, watching him build the case that will destroy him, and waits. Powell picks up his phone again, scrolls. His face goes pale. The videos have gone viral. 500,000 views. And in San Antonio, 200 miles away, someone in a federal office has just seen her face on a screen. Her phone, the one Powell seized, starts ringing in the evidence bag on the counter behind him, loud, insistent. The ringtone cutting through the buzz of fluorescent lights. He glances at it, looks back at his screen. The phone keeps ringing. You going to answer that? Maya asks quietly. Powell ignores her, ignores the phone, lets it ring out to voicemail. 10 seconds of silence. Then it starts ringing again. His eyes flick to the evidence bag, back to Maya, back to his screen. The phone rings and rings and rings. Whoever is calling isn't giving up. Maya keeps her face neutral, but inside she knows the cavalry is coming, and Powell has just made the biggest mistake of his career. He didn't answer that call. The phone stops ringing. Silence fills the holding room. Just the fluorescent buzz and the tick of the wall clock. Powell exhales, relaxes his shoulders like he dodged something. Then his phone, the one in his hand, lights up. Incoming call. Unknown number. He stares at it. Doesn't answer. Let it ring out. 5 seconds later it rings again. Different number. Then Martinez's phone starts. The body cam on his chest beeps. Incoming transmission request from dispatch. Powell's radio crackles. Unit respond. We have urgent contact request regarding your detainee. He grabs the radio holds. It doesn't press the button. Maya watches the realization spreading across his face. This isn't going away. This is escalating faster than he can control. Adam Martinez says quietly, voice shaking. I think we need to... Don't. Powell's voice is sharp, desperate. Don't say anything. But Martinez has already started calculating his own exposure, already started seeing where this is headed. Powell paces. 3 steps, one way, 3 steps back. Phone buzzing constantly now. Radio crackling with repeated requests. He finally answers his phone. Powell. Whatever he hears makes his face go pale. Maya can't make out the words, but she hears the tone. Authority. Anger. The kind of voice that ended careers. Powell tries to explain, tries to justify, but the voice on the other end keeps cutting him off. Each interruption shorter, sharper. His shoulders sag. Yes, sir. Understood, sir. He ends the call, stands there for a long moment. When he faces her again, the arrogance is gone. Officer Martinez, he says quietly. Official on record. Remove the restraints. Martinez moves fast, cuts the zip ties with his knife. The plastic falls away. Maya's wrists are red indented, starting to bruise. She brings her hands forward slowly, shoulders screaming from 27 minutes locked in position. She doesn't rub her wrists, doesn't show pain, just stands there. Powell opens his mouth, closes. It tries again. Ma'am, there's been a... Don't, Maya says quietly. Don't call this a misunderstanding. She stands up, body aching, face throbbing. But she stands straight. She doesn't yell, doesn't need to. She tells him exactly what he'd done. Every choice he'd made, every moment he could have verified her credentials and chose not to. He just stands there, takes it. Those weren't mistakes, she says. Those were choices. Powell's radio crackles. Unit Powell, Chief Donovan en route. ETA 90 seconds, Chief Donovan Airport Police Chief. Martinez looks like he wants to disappear into the wall. 3 days before Houston Intercontinental, Maya woke up at 5:00 a.m., like she'd done every morning for 14 years. No alarm. Her body just knew. First thing, 100 push-ups, military grip. By 70, her arms shook. By 100, she held plank until her core burned. Then she stood, grabbed her towel, and started her day. Coffee brewing French press always, while Miles Davis drifted from the speaker. Kind of Blue. Same album every morning. Everything had a rhythm. Everything had a system. On her kitchen table sat a glass mason jar. Inside 23 smooth river stones, each one from a different state. Texas, Montana, New York, Oregon, California. Every place she'd worked, she'd find a stone pocket, bring it home. Her own private map. Proof she'd covered ground. Proof she'd done the work. From her nightstand, she picked up a silver compass. Her grandfather's. Tuskegee Airmen 3 tours came home with that compass and handed it to her the day she earned her badge. Every morning, she flipped it open, watched the needle settle north, then slipped it in her jacket pocket. Same pocket every day. Her phone buzzed. Text from her mother. Morning, baby. You eating breakfast or just that coffee? She smiled, typed back. I'll eat at the airport. That's not breakfast. Call me later. Yes, Mom. Maya got dressed. Grey blazer, white blouse, professional. The kind of outfit that said she belonged anywhere she walked. Boots with good tread because you never knew when you'd need to move. Now every Sunday she volunteered at a boxing gym in 5th Ward, the neighborhood where she grew up. Taught kids how to wrap their hands properly, how to keep their composure when someone bigger was trying to break them. They called her Coach Maya. Had no idea what she really did Monday through Friday. One kid asked her once, Coach, you ever get scared? She told him the truth every day. But I show up anyway. And that Thursday morning she showed up, grabbed her go-bag already packed. 3-day conference in D.C. standard interagency meetings, routine bureaucratic work. She'd made this exact trip 47 times. Same airport, same security checkpoint, same process. 47 times without incident. She kept documentation for everything, credentials, clearance paperwork, approval codes, all of it organized in the front pocket of her bag, where it was easy to access because that's what experience taught you. Make it simple for them. They make it simple for you. Her credentials were in the system. Always had been. Badge number, clearance level authorized to fly armed. All of it logged, verified, approved. She'd done everything right, followed every protocol, checked every box. 14 years of doing it exactly by the book. She locked her apartment door, tested it twice out of habit, headed down to her car. The sun was coming up over San Antonio. Beautiful Texas morning, clear skies, light traffic on the highway. She'd be at the airport in 20 minutes through security, in 10 coffee, and a breakfast taco before boarding. Same routine she'd perfected over 47 flights. She checked that compass one more time before starting the engine. Still pointing north like it always did. Maya merged onto I-10 windows down Miles Davis, still playing softly. Number 48. Same airport, same checkpoint, same professional courtesy she'd always received. Should have been the easiest trip yet. Maya was born on a military base in Germany to a Marine father and an Army nurse mother. She learned early what service meant, what duty looked like, the weight of responsibility and the honor of carrying it. Her family moved back to Texas when she was 8, settled in Houston's 5th Ward. Her father took a job with the sheriff's department, her mother at the VA hospital. At night, they'd sit on the porch and tell her stories about the world beyond their neighborhood, about the grandfather she'd never met. James Jackson, Tuskegee airman navigator on a bomber crew that flew 34 missions over Europe. He always knew where he was going, her father would say, even when the instruments failed, even when they were surrounded by flak so thick you could walk on it. He'd pull out his compass, find north, and bring the whole crew home. When Maya was 12, her father was killed during a routine traffic stop. The driver, high on meth, pulled a gun. 2 shots. Her father didn't make it to the hospital. At the funeral, her mother handed her a small wooden box. Inside was her grandfather's compass, silver worn smooth from years of handling. "Your father wanted you to have this when you were older," she said. "But I think you need it now." The compass became her anchor. When school got tough, when the neighborhood felt dangerous, when missing her father hollowed her out, she'd hold that compass. Feel its weight, watch the needle settle on north. After college, criminal justice at UT Austin, she applied to the U.S. Marshals service. Made it through the academy, graduated near the top of her class. The day she earned her badge, her mother cried. That night, Maya took out the compass, polished it until the silver gleamed, and added her own inscription beneath her grandfather's "Earn your wings every day." 14 years since then. 14 years of fugitive apprehensions, witness protection, judicial security, prisoner transport. 14 years of proving herself over and over, being the first one in, last one out, taking the toughest assignments, asking for the hardest cases, volunteering for the work others avoided. She moved up the ranks. Deputy U.S. Marshal Maya Jackson, respected by colleagues, trusted by superiors, feared by fugitives. But even with a badge, even with a gun, even with federal authority, she never forgot what her mother told her the day she graduated from the academy, that uniform makes you visible in one way, invisible in another. Some people will only see the badge, others will only see your skin. Know the difference and be ready for both. She'd filed 3 reports in 2 years about pattern irregularities at IAH. Data didn't lie. Black travelers, Latino travelers. They got randomly selected at rates that weren't random at all. Nothing had changed. Now she slid into the security line at Terminal C. Not particularly long, maybe 20 people ahead of her. She pulled out her phone, checked her boarding pass. Gate C-28, flight to Reagan. National 7:45, departure. Plenty of time. Ahead of her in line, 2 men in expensive suits were complaining. Third time this month, one muttered to the other. Random screening every single flight. Same here. They see the briefcase, suddenly it's extra pat down, extra questions. It's profiling, man. Just a different kind. Maya said nothing, kept her eyes forward. But she heard them. She always heard them. The line moved forward. She placed her laptop in a bin, her shoes, her jacket, kept her credentials case in her carry-on exactly where it should be, where the system could verify it. She walked through the metal detector. No alarm, clean pass. She should have grabbed her stuff and gone straight to her gate. But a TSA agent, young guy, early 20s, nervous energy, was staring at his screen, looking at her boarding pass, looking at her, looking at the screen again. Then he glanced over at his supervisor. A woman in her 50s, grey hair, pulled back tight badge reading Wilson. She had that look, the kind of face that had seen 1,000 travelers and trusted none of them. The young agent said something quiet. Wilson looked up. Her eyes found Maya. And something shifted. Wilson walked over, a smile plastered on. The kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step aside for additional screening. Just routine." Maya kept her voice level. "Professional. I fly this route monthly. My clearance is in the system." "I'm sure it is." Wilson's smile didn't waver. "But protocol is protocol." There it was. That word, protocol. The word that could mean anything. The word that gave them permission to do whatever came next. Maya stepped aside, didn't argue, didn't raise her voice, just moved where they indicated. A separate area with a full-body scanner away from the main flow of travelers. Other passengers glanced over. Some kept walking. Some slowed down, curious. A few pulled out phones, half hidden just in case something worth recording happened. Wilson gestured toward the scanner. Arms up, feet on the marks. Maya complied. Stood in the scanner, arms raised, while the machine hummed and rotated around her. 10 seconds. 15. 20. The machine beeped. Wilson looked at the monitor and her expression changed. Concern. The performed kind. "Ma'am, the scanner's detecting an anomaly." "Right hip region." Maya's jaw tightened. She knew exactly what it was detecting. "I have metal fragments in my hip," she said calmly. "Residual shrapnel from a service-related injury. It's documented in my medical file in TSA Guidelines Section 1-44.2-1 allow for—" "Are you a lawyer?" Wilson cut her off. Voice sharp. "No, just informed. Wrong answer." Maya saw it immediately. Wilson's face hardened. "We're going to need to do a manual inspection," Wilson announced, loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. "Loud enough to perform authority. I'm happy to provide my documentation." Maya said evenly. "My credentials are in my bag. My medical records are accessible through ma'am. I need you to remain calm." Maya was calm. Her voice hadn't raised. Her hands were visible. She was doing everything right, but Wilson was already building a narrative. A traveler nearby, middle-aged white woman in yoga pants, whispered to her husband, "Why are they hassling her? She's clearly cooperating." Her husband pulled her away. "Not our business." Wilson moved closer, lowered her voice just enough. "Ma'am, if you don't cooperate fully, I'll have no choice but to call airport police." "I am cooperating," Maya said quietly. "I'm asking you to verify my credentials, which are readily available in your system." Wilson didn't respond, just pulled out her radio. And that's when Maya knew this wasn't about the scanner, wasn't about the anomaly, wasn't about protocol. This was something else. Wilson pressed the button on her radio. "Checkpoint C7. Need police assist. Uncooperative passenger." That word. Uncooperative. Maya was standing still, hands at her sides, voice level, doing everything they asked, but she'd been labeled. And once that label stuck, facts didn't matter anymore. 20 feet away, a teenager pulled out his phone, started recording. Then another passenger. Then another. Because people knew. They'd seen this before. They'd watched the videos. They knew how these things went. Wilson noticed the phones. Her performance intensified. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step over to the holding area until the officers arrive. I'd like to speak to your supervisor," Maya said. "I am the supervisor. Then I'd like to contact my office. You can do that after we've completed our screening process." The radio on Wilson's belt crackled. "Unit responding to C7, ETA 2 minutes. Maya took a slow breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. She could feel eyes on her, dozens of them. The other travelers who'd stopped to watch the TSA agents at adjacent checkpoints, who'd noticed something happening, and the phones at least a dozen now recording. She'd done this exact thing 47 times. Same airport, same process, same credentials in the same system. But this time, something was different. The crowd was growing. Travelers backing up behind the checkpoint, craning their necks to see. A few people muttering, some silent. Somewhere in that crowd, someone hit post. A video 22 seconds long. Shaky footage of a black woman in business attire standing perfectly still while a TA supervisor radioed for police. Caption, "They're calling cops on her for asking questions. IAH Airport." This is insane. Flying while Black 18 retweets in 3 minutes. Maya didn't know that yet. Didn't know her face was already spreading across Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. Didn't know that in Houston, in Atlanta, in DC, people were starting to watch. She just knew that in 2 minutes airport police were going to arrive. And she knew that what happened next would depend entirely on who showed up and what kind of day they were having. She touched her jacket pocket, felt the outline of her grandfather's compass through the fabric. True north. She just had to hold it. Heavy boots on tile, getting closer. The officers were here. 2 officers. The first one through was built like he spent his off hours at the gym proving something. Buzz-cut, tight uniform hand resting on his taser the second he cleared the checkpoint barrier. His name tag read Powell. The second officer was younger. Smaller frame, looked like he just graduated from the academy last week. Name tag Martinez. Powell's eyes locked on Maya. Scanned her head to toe. Business attire. Expensive watch. Confident posture. His jaw tightened. 3 seconds. That's all it took. Ma'am, Powell said, voice carrying across the checkpoint. "I'm going to need you to step over here." Maya kept her voice calm. Professional. "Officer, there's been a misunderstanding. My credentials are in my bag. I have clearance documentation. If we could just..." "Step over here." Each word separated, louder. She stepped, moved exactly where he indicated. Martinez shifted his weight, glanced at the crowd gathering behind the barrier. 30 people now, maybe more. Phones everywhere. He looked back at Powell, opened his mouth, then closed it. Powell positioned himself close, too close, inside Maya's personal space by a good 6 inches. She didn't step back, didn't flinch, just stood there. He started with the accusations. Refused screening. Refused to cooperate. Resisting TSA procedure. Maya tried to explain she'd completed the screening. The scanner had detected old metal fragments. She had documentation. He cut her off. "Ma'am, I need you to stop talking and start listening." Someone in the crowd muttered, "Oh, come on." A woman's voice. Exasperated. "She's not even doing anything." Powell's shoulders went rigid. He heard it. The judgment, the cameras, the audience. "I'd like to speak to your supervisor," Maya said quietly. Powell smiled. Nothing warm in it. You're looking at him, sweetheart. Sweetheart. That word cut through the terminal noise. The travelers heard it. The TSA agents heard it. Martinez actually winced. Maya's face didn't change, but her eyes went cold. Officer Powell, she said, reading his name tag deliberately. I'm asking you professionally to allow me to retrieve my credentials so we can clear this up. Professionally? Powell's voice dripped mockery. What are you, some kind of lawyer? No, some kind of businesswoman who thinks she's too important for regular screening. I think I'm a person with valid documentation asking to be treated according to protocol. Powell's face flushed red, creeping up his neck. His hand dropped to his belt. Ma'am, your attitude is making this worse. Maya's attitude was calm. Her hands were visible. Her voice was level. She hadn't moved toward him, hadn't raised her tone, hadn't done anything except ask questions. But Powell's eyes had narrowed, locked on her posture. Straight spine-level gaze, no apology in sight. That's what he was reading. That's what he couldn't tolerate. Adam Martinez said quietly, Maybe we should just check her ID. I got this, Gabriel. Powell didn't even turn his head. Maya reached slowly for her bag, telegraphing every movement. My credentials are in the front pocket. I'm going to retrieve them now. Don't move. Powell's hand went to his taser. She froze, hand halfway to her bag. The back and forth continued. Did I say you could reach for something? You asked who I was. I didn't ask you to get it. Every exchange pushing her further into a corner she hadn't created. The phones in the crowd multiplied. Someone was live streaming now. Red live indicator glowing. Notification chimes started. 1, then 3, then a cascade like dominoes falling. Powell noticed. His eyes flicked to the phones, then back to Maya. His jaw clenched tighter. He shouted at the crowd about active police matters, about stopping the recording, about removal from the airport. Nobody stopped. Nobody even lowered their phones. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you one more time. What are you carrying that triggered the scanner metal fragments in my hip from an injury sustained during... During what? She paused. This was the moment. She could tell him right now, could explain federal service, 14 years of credentials, the badge in her bag. But she'd been here before, had watched officers follow procedure right up until a badge appeared. Then suddenly claimed they were about to check anyway. Had filed 3 reports about this exact pattern at this exact airport. She needed them to finish. Needed them to show exactly who they were when they thought she was nobody. I'd prefer to discuss my medical history privately, she said. And I'm happy to provide documentation. Powell's face went darker. You'd prefer, lady? You don't get to prefer anything right now. Martinez shifted again. His hand moved toward his radio. Hesitated there. His training said, intervene. His 6-month probation review, the one sitting on his supervisor's desk, said, don't contradict senior officers. Don't make waves. Don't end up on the wrong side of internal politics. He pulled his hand away from the radio, stepped back, made his choice right there. Powell grabbed Maya's bag, yanked it straight off her shoulder. Hey, she started. You don't need this until I say you need this. He unzipped it, started pulling things out. Laptop chargers, toiletry bag, dumping them on the metal screening table like evidence at a crime scene. The crowd got louder. Protests rising, someone yelling about legality, someone demanding a supervisor. Powell found her credentials case, black leather federal seal embossed on the front. He held it up. What's this, my identification? Looks pretty official. Mocking playing to some invisible audience. You steal this from somewhere? Maya's jaw clenched. Open it. I'll open it when I'm ready. He tossed it back in the bag, didn't even flip it open. Whatever was inside didn't matter to him anymore. He'd already written the story. Facts weren't going to rewrite it. Maya reached for her phone in her jacket pocket. One call. That's all she needed. Powell saw the movement. His hand shot out, grabbed her wrist hard. "What are you doing?" "Calling my supervisor. I didn't say you could use your phone." He pulled it from her hand, held it up like a trophy. "You just committed a federal violation," Maya said quietly, evenly. "No threat, just fact. Unlawful seizure, denial of communication, violation of civil rights under color of law." Powell laughed. Actually laughed. "Federal lady, you're in Texas. We do things different here. Unlawful seizure, denial of communication, violation of civil rights under color of law." Maya looked directly at him. Her voice dropped to ice. "Officer Powell, you need to return my phone. You need to allow me to retrieve my credentials, and you need to do it now." The checkpoint went silent. Everyone watching, everyone recording. Powell's face turned crimson because she'd done it wrong. She'd told him in front of all these people, all these cameras, what he needed to do. "You threatening me. I'm informing you of procedure." Sounds like a threat to me. It's not. Sounds like you're getting aggressive. Maya hadn't moved, hadn't raised her voice, was standing completely still. But Powell had his narrative now. "Ma'am, put your hands behind your back." "What hands behind your back?" "Now." "On what grounds?" The words came rapid fire. Failure to comply, threatening an officer, resisting. He built the case in real time while she stood there motionless. "I haven't resisted anything." Powell grabbed for her arm. "You're resisting right now." Maya made her choice in that split second. She went limp. Textbook defensive posture. No resistance, just dead weight. Made him do all the work. Made every camera capture exactly what happened when a woman stood still and asked questions. Powell twisted her arm behind her back, barked the words loud enough for everyone to hear. "Stop resisting." She wasn't moving. "Stop resisting." Louder for the cameras. She still wasn't moving at all. He forced her down. His knee drove into her spine. Her cheek slammed into cold tile. The crowd erupted, voices overlapping. "She's not resisting." "What are you doing? Stop! This is wrong." Martinez stood frozen, watched it happen. His hand twitched toward his radio again, then stopped. He just stood there. The zip ties bit into Maya's wrists, plastic cutting into skin. Her grandfather's compass fell from her jacket pocket, hit the tile with that thin metallic ping, started spinning. The needle wobbling, searching, trying to find north. The compass he'd carried through 3 tours through flak and fire and missions that tried to kill him. The one that never lied. The one he'd pressed into her palm the day she earned her badge. Spinning on cold airport tile. Then someone's boot, she couldn't see whose, kicked it. The compass skittered across the floor, slid under a trash can 6 feet away. Gone. Kicked into darkness by a boot that didn't even notice what it had just destroyed. Maya's eyes stayed locked on that gap under the trash can. That shadow where true north had disappeared. Powell hauled her to her feet, hands still bound behind her. Adam Martinez whispered voice, shaking her credentials. "Maybe we should shut up, Gabriel." The teenager's live stream exploded. 20,000 viewers, then 30. Comments flooding faster than anyone could read them. "Call a lawyer now." She's staying so calm. That's training. I hope she sues for millions. Why didn't she just comply, though? Comply with what? Breathing. Here we go with the excuses. You're really defending this. Someone in Houston recognized the terminal. Local activist. 40,000 followers retweeted with 3 words. Not again. IAH. The original video from earlier. The one the teenager posted while Wilson was calling police, now sitting at 500,000 views. Climbing fast. Justice for Terminal C, pushing past, #Astros, past, #Texas weather, past everything local. Heading toward national trending. People in Atlanta saw it. People in D.C. People in New York who'd been through their own versions of this exact scene. The comments split into camps, those who'd lived it and those who refused to believe it. But Maya couldn't see any of that. Couldn't see her face spreading across every platform. Couldn't see the fury building in cities she'd never been to. She just knew she was being walked toward a holding room with plastic cutting into her wrists and dozens of strangers recording her humiliation. And the system she'd spent 14 years believing in, the one she'd served, protected, upheld it, was working exactly the way it was built to work. Just never for people who looked like her. The door burst open. Chief Donovan entered first. Mid-50s grey hair, 30 years written in the lines of his face. Behind him came TSA Management Airport Security. Someone in a suit. They filled the small room with bodies and badges and institutional panic. Donovan took one look. Maya with marked wrists. Powell pale and cornered. Martinez pressed against the wall. "Jesus," Donovan muttered. His eyes went to Maya, then to Powell. "Officer Powell outside now." "Chief, I can explain. Outside." Powell left. Martinez followed without being asked. Donovan turned to Maya. His expression was careful. The face of someone doing damage control in real time. "Ma'am, I apologize for what's happened here. I want to assure you I need my belongings," Maya said. Voice level. "My bag, my phone, everything." Officer Powell seized. Donovan nodded to someone. They retrieved her bag from the counter. Her phone. Placed them on the table. She checked her phone first. 73 missed calls, 42 voicemails, 218 text messages. She scrolled through the calls. Chief Deputy Bennett, her district supervisor. 3 other colleagues from her office. 2 from Houston, 1 from headquarters. The cavalry had been calling for 30 minutes, and Powell had ignored every single one. She picked up her bag. Her credentials case was still in the front pocket, where she told him it would be. Still there. Still unverified. She didn't open it. Didn't pull anything out. Didn't explain. Let them wonder. Donovan was watching her, trying to read her, trying to figure out how bad this was going to get. "Ma'am, I understand this has been difficult, and I want you to know we'll be conducting a thorough investigation." "You'll be conducting more than an investigation," Maya said quietly. She slung her bag over her shoulder, the weight familiar grounding. Her body hurt. Her wrists throbbed. Her face still tasted like blood, but she walked toward the door with her head up. Donovan stepped aside. Everyone stepped aside. She stopped at the threshold, looked back at the room, at the metal table, at the fluorescent lights that had buzzed above her for 27 minutes while she sat bound and humiliated. Looked at Donovan. "You should have answered the phone," she said. Then she stepped into the hallway and stopped, because the hallway wasn't empty. 2 men in dark suits stood outside the door. Federal bearing federal stance, the kind of presence that cleared rooms. The closer one was tall, Hispanic, mid-40s. She recognized him immediately. Deputy Marshal Javier Ramirez from the Houston office. They'd worked a fugitive case together 3 years ago. Behind him stood another marshal, younger, white, built solid. Ramirez's eyes locked on her, then dropped to her wrists. To the red marks. The indentations where plastic had cut into skin. His jaw clenched. His whole body went rigid. "Jackson," he said quietly. Just her name. But the way he said it, controlled fury wrapped in 2 syllables. She nodded. Didn't trust her voice yet. Ramirez's eyes went past her into the holding room. At Donovan, at the TSA supervisors, at the legal counsel. His expression was stone. The second marshal moved closer, positioned himself between Maya and the door, protective the way partners did. Ramirez looked back at her. "Who?" One word, but she knew what he was asking. "Officer Powell," she said. "Airport PD." Ramirez nodded slowly. His hand moved to his radio. But before he could press the button, noise erupted from somewhere deeper in the terminal. Shouts, running footsteps. The particular chaos that meant something big was happening. Donovan's radio crackled. "Chief, we have a situation at the main checkpoint. News crews, federal agents, crowd control needed immediately." Ramirez pulled out his phone, glanced at the screen. His expression darkened. Jackson, the videos. They're everywhere. She knew. Had seen the missed calls, had felt the weight of those 73 attempts to reach her. How bad, she asked. National news? Trending number 1. Every civil rights organization in the country is calling for answers. He paused. Your face is on CNN right now. The second marshal leaned in. We tried to get here sooner. They wouldn't tell us where you were. Took us 20 minutes just to find out which holding room. 20 minutes. While she sat zip-tied. While Powell wrote his false report. While Donovan's department tried to figure out how to contain what couldn't be contained. More noise from the terminal. Louder now. Voices overlapping. Someone shouting questions. Camera shutters clicking. Ramirez looked toward the sound, then back at Maya. There's about 50 people out there right now, he said quietly. Reporters, cameras, federal agents from 3 different agencies, and a crowd of travelers who've been watching those videos and waiting to see what happens next. He paused. They're waiting for you. Maya took a breath. Her wrists ached. Her face throbbed. Her body screamed for rest, but she straightened her shoulders. Checked her bag, made sure her credentials case was secure in the front pocket. Then let's not keep them waiting, she said. Ramirez nodded. Stepped aside. The second marshal moved to her left. Flanking position, the formation they used for high-value transports. Except this time she wasn't a prisoner. She was one of them. And they were making damn sure everyone knew it. They walked down the hallway toward the terminal, toward the noise that kept building, toward whatever came next. Ramirez's radio crackled again. All units be advised. Federal law enforcement on scene. Repeat. Federal law enforcement on scene. Stand by for instructions. Through the doorway ahead, Maya could see lights. Camera lights bright and harsh and unforgiving. Could hear voices calling out questions overlapping. The machinery of national attention focused on one moment. People moving, positioning, preparing. Ramirez stopped at the doorway, looked at her. Ready, he asked. She wasn't. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was racing. Every instinct said, run, hide, escape. But she'd spent 14 years earning this badge. 14 years proving she belonged. 14 years doing everything right. And she just spent 27 minutes learning that sometimes doing everything right wasn't enough. So she was done hiding, done shrinking, done making herself smaller so other people would feel comfortable. Ready, she said. Ramirez pushed open the door and Maya Jackson stepped into the lights. The terminal had transformed. Maya stepped through the doorway and the noise hit her like a physical force. Cameras, voices, questions shouting over each other. The harsh white glare of news lights turning the space into a stage. She stopped, let her eyes adjust, let the moment settle. Ramirez moved to her right, the second marshal to her left. Flanking positions, making a statement with their bodies alone. The crowd was massive. News crews from at least 6 stations. Federal agents in suits, FBI, probably Homeland Security. Airport security trying to maintain some kind of perimeter. And travelers, dozens of them, phones out, recording, watching. They'd seen the videos. All of them. She could see it in their faces. A reporter pushed forward. Microphone extended, started asking about assault, about arrests, about what happened in that room. Ramirez stepped between them. Shut it down. But more reporters surged the energy, shifting from curiosity to feeding frenzy. Then a voice cut through the chaos. Make a hole. The crowd parted. A woman in her 60s walked through. White-gray hair in professional twists, dark suit with a U.S. Marshal service pinned on the lapel. She moved with authority that didn't need announcement. Chief Deputy Marshal Olivia Bennett, San Antonio District, Maya's direct supervisor. Bennett's eyes found Maya's, then dropped to her wrists. To the red marks still visible, her expression went stone cold. She walked straight to Maya. Jackson. Bennett's jaw tightened. Who did this? Officer Adam Powell, Airport PD. He's with Chief Donovan now. Bennett nodded once, turned to Ramirez. Gave orders. Get her somewhere private. Medical evaluation, full documentation photos of those injuries. Then she looked back at Maya. Something softer crossed her face. You okay? Maya wanted to say yes, wanted to maintain composure. But standing here in front of her chief, the woman who'd promoted her, who'd trusted her with high-value cases, something cracked. No, ma'am, she said quietly. I'm not. Bennett squeezed her shoulder. Brief. The only display of emotion she'd allow in front of cameras. We're going to handle this, all of it. Then she turned to face the crowd. The reporters, the cameras. When she spoke, her voice carried. She identified herself. Chief Deputy Marshal Olivia Bennett, United States Marshal Service, Western District of Texas. Then she dropped the bomb. The woman they'd been recording, the one arrested and zip-tied and forced to the ground. Deputy U.S. Marshal Maya Jackson. 14 years of federal service. 3 commendations for valor. The crowd went silent because this wasn't just another viral video anymore. This was a federal officer assaulted by local police on camera in front of 200 witnesses. Bennett laid out what happened. Unlawful detention, excessive force. Minutes in a holding room, despite repeated attempts to identify herself and provide credentials. She made the agency's position clear. Full investigation. Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division involved. Every piece of footage reviewed. Every available remedy under federal law pursued. Deputy Marshal Jackson deserves better than what happened here today, Bennett said. And we're going to make damn sure this never happens again. The cameras exploded, questions cascading. But Bennett was done talking. She turned to Ramirez, told him to get Maya out, but Maya stopped. Chief, my compass. It fell during the arrest. Bennett's expression shifted. She knew about the compass, knew what it meant. We'll find it. It belonged to my grandfather. I know. Bennett's voice was firm. We'll find it. A TSA supervisor pushed through the crowd, nervous, sweating, holding something wrapped in an evidence bag. They'd found it under the trash can at checkpoint C7. Silver compass leather case. He handed it to Bennett. She checked it, opened the bag. The needle wobbled, then settled. Still working, still pointing north despite everything. She handed it to Maya. The weight of it in her palm was everything. Solid, real, the one piece of her grandfather that had survived 3 wars, and now this. She opened it. The inscription inside was still clear. Earn your wings every day. Her throat tightened. She closed the compass, put it in her pocket, right side over her heart, where it belonged. Thank you, she said quietly. The TSA supervisor nodded, disappeared into the crowd like he couldn't leave fast enough. Ramirez touched her elbow. Time to move. She nodded. Let him guide her toward the exit. But before they reached the door, a commotion erupted behind them. Chief Donovan emerged from the hallway. Powell beside him, Martinez trailing behind. Powell saw the crowd, saw the cameras, saw Bennett standing there with federal authority radiating from her like heat. His face went white. Bennett saw him too. Officer Powell. He didn't answer. Couldn't. Bennett walked toward him slowly, deliberately, like a prosecutor approaching the bench. Donovan tried to intervene, started talking about internal investigations, about resolving matters through proper channels, about interdepartmental cooperation. Bennett cut him off. One word no. She told him this stopped being internal the moment his officer assaulted a federal agent. She was already on the phone with DOJ. Civil Rights Division was sending a team. FBI was opening their own investigation. Donovan's face went gray. Bennett looked at Powell. You violated federal law specifically. Title 18 U.S. Code Section 242, Deprivation of Rights under color of law. That's a felony. Powell just stood there, the reality of what he had done finally fully hitting him. Not just a woman, not just a passenger. A deputy U.S. Marshal. Martinez looked at Meyer across the crowd. Their eyes met. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something. But what could he say? He'd watched it happen, made his choice, stood by. Meyer turned away. She didn't need his apology. Needed him to testify. Needed him to tell the truth when it mattered. Ramirez guided her toward the exit. The second marshal cleared the path. Airport security finally held back the reporters. They stepped into a corridor. Quieter the noise muffled by heavy doors. Meyer leaned against the wall. Let herself breathe. You good? Ramirez asked. She nodded, then shook her head. I don't know. That's fair. The second marshal examined her wrists, took photos, documented everything. Told her she'd bruise badly, might need x-rays. For the lawsuit, for the case, for the evidence. Ramirez's phone rang. He answered, listened. His expression changed. He looked at Meyer. Bennett had just briefed him. DOJ was sending a team. FBI opening a civil rights investigation. And the director of the Marshal Service, the director himself, wanted to talk to her. Now. Ramirez handed her the phone. The director didn't waste time, told her she had full agency support, every resource. He'd already called the Attorney General. This was priority. Then he asked how she was holding up. And something about that question from the director. The man at the top broke through the wall she'd been building. I'm angry, sir, she said. And tired. And I want to go home. He understood. Medical evaluation first statement, then rest. They'd handle the investigation. But she wasn't ready to step back. Told him she wanted to be involved. Knew what questions to ask, wanted to see it through. A pause on the line, then he agreed. But she had to do it right. Medical first statement, second rest, then they'd talk. His last words stayed with her. You represented this agency with honor. I'm proud to have you as a deputy. Her throat tightened. She handed the phone back to Ramirez. Director doesn't call personally unless it's serious, Ramirez said. It is serious. Yeah. He smiled slightly. Powell has no idea how bad this is going to get. The second marshal finished photographing her injuries. Medical was waiting. Federal building downtown. Full forensic team standing by. Meyer pushed off the wall. Her body protested. Everything hurt. But she could walk, could stand, could face what came next. Because True North wasn't about never falling. It was about getting back up. About holding the line even when the system tried to break you. It was about earning your wings every single day. Let's go, she said. They walked toward the exit, toward whatever justice looked like, toward a reckoning that was only just beginning. Behind them, through the terminal doors, she could still hear the noise, the reporters, the questions, the machinery of accountability starting to turn. And somewhere in that chaos, Powell was learning what happened when you crossed lines you couldn't uncross, when you made choices you couldn't take back, when you arrested a federal officer and thought you'd get away with it. He'd made his choices. Now he'd live with the consequences. The news broke fast. 24 hours after the terminal. Officer Adam Powell was suspended without pay. Pending federal investigation. His badge and service weapon confiscated, escorted out of Houston Airport Police Headquarters by his own colleagues. The photo made national news. Powell walking out head down, no comment. 48 hours in TSA supervisor Katherine Wilson was placed on administrative leave. The woman who'd made that first radio call who'd flagged Maya as a problem before Powell ever arrived. Complaints of racial profiling in her personnel file. All dismissed, all ignored. Until now. 72 hours after Maya sat zip-tied on that terminal floor, Chief Donovan stood at a podium and did something he'd probably never done before. He apologized. Not the careful corporate kind, the real kind, the kind that came with consequences. What happened to Deputy U.S. Marshal Maya Jackson was unacceptable. He said, voice steady but strained. It does not reflect the values of this department, and it will not be tolerated. Behind him, federal officials, DOJ, FBI, U.S. Attorney's Office, a wall of federal authority making it clear this wasn't a local matter anymore. We are implementing immediate reforms, Donovan continued. Federal oversight of our operations, mandatory bias training, creation of a civilian review board, and full cooperation with the Department of Justice investigation into our practices. The reporters shouted questions. Donovan looked like he wanted to disappear, but he stood there, took it because he had no choice. The system was watching now. 3 weeks later, Maya sat in a federal courthouse San Antonio filing paperwork that would change everything. Title 42, United States Code Section 1983, Civil Rights Violation, False Arrest, Excessive Force, Unlawful Detention. Her attorney provided by the Marshal Service laid out the case, clear, documented, undeniable. But it was the discovery that hit hardest. You're the seventh, the attorney said quietly, sliding a document across the table. Maya looked at the list. 7 names. 7 black federal officers profiled at IAH in the past 18 months. Some TSA, some Customs, some DEA. All federal law enforcement, all subjected to enhanced screening, all questioned, all treated like threats. 7? Maya repeated. Pattern and practice, the attorney said. That's not random. That's policy. The DOJ Civil Rights Division agreed. Opened a full investigation into Houston Airport Police and TSA procedures, looking at thousands of stops, analyzing data, finding patterns that had been invisible until someone with a badge and backup forced them into the light. Meanwhile, the videos kept spreading. 12 million views now. Had become 12 million unique viewers. People watching, sharing, discussing. Flying While Black trended for 2 weeks straight. Not just about Maya, about everyone. Every traveler who'd been pulled aside, every person told their natural hair was suspicious, every family separated for random screening that wasn't random. The conversation had shifted from one incident to widespread reality. And Maya was at the center of it. 6 weeks after the arrest, Maya walked into the Rayburn House Office Building, Washington, D.C. Marble floors, high ceilings, the weight of government machinery. House Judiciary Committee. Subcommittee on Civil Rights and Civil Liberties. Hearing on discriminatory practices in transportation security. She wore her dress uniform, full medals badge polished. Every inch the federal officer Powell had refused to see. The committee room was packed. Press advocates, airport officials called to testify. TSA leadership looking uncomfortable. When they called her name, Maya walked to the witness table, raised her right hand, swore to tell the truth. Congressman Davis, chair of the subcommittee, leaned forward. Deputy Marshal Jackson, thank you for being here. I know this hasn't been easy. No, sir, Maya said, but it's necessary. He nodded. Can you walk us through what happened on October the 9th at Houston Intercontinental Airport? She did. Calmly, methodically, every detail. The checkpoint, the escalation, the zip ties, the 27 minutes in that room. The committee listened in silence. Then Davis asked the question that mattered. Deputy Marshal Jackson, you've served 14 years in federal law enforcement. You've arrested fugitives, protected federal judges, served high-risk warrants in some of the most dangerous situations imaginable. And yet none of that mattered when you walked through a TSA checkpoint. Why do you think that is? Maya looked at him. At the cameras. At the TSA administrators sitting 3 rows back trying not to make eye contact. Because I wore a badge for 14 years, she said. Voice clear, strong. I've arrested fugitives, protected judges, served high-risk warrants, and none of it mattered the moment I became a black woman in a TSA line. She paused. Let that land. That's not a training failure. That's a design feature. The room went silent. One of the representatives started clapping, then another, then half the room. The TA administrator looked like he wanted to sink into his chair. Davis nodded slowly. Deputy Marshal. What changes would you recommend mandatory federal law enforcement recognition training? Maya said. Real civilian oversight, not internal review boards that dismiss complaints. Data transparency. Publish the numbers on who gets stopped, who gets enhanced, screening broken down by race. And accountability. Real consequences when officers violate civil rights, not just retraining. Another representative asked a follow-up. Retraining assumes the problem is knowledge, Maya said. The problem isn't that Officer Powell didn't know better. It's that he didn't think he'd face consequences, prove him wrong, make the consequences real. Her testimony ran 90 minutes. Detailed, specific, backed by documentation and data. By the end, 3 representatives had committed to drafting legislation. The TSA administrator had promised reforms. And Maya's face was on every news outlet in the country. The marshal they didn't recognize and the bias they couldn't hide. The headline wrote itself. The legal system moved slower than the news cycle, but it moved. 8 weeks after the arrest, Powell's attorney approached the DOJ with a plea deal. Client would plead guilty to deprivation of rights under color of law. Title 18, United States Code Section 242. Federal felony. In exchange, 6 months jail time, 2 years supervised probation, permanent ban from law enforcement, mandatory bias training, community service. The prosecutor looked at Maya. It's your call. We can push for trial. Go for the full 10 years. Maya thought about it. About 27 minutes. About the compass under the trash can. About Powell's face when he realized who he'd arrested. What does Martinez's testimony look like? She asked. Solid. He's cooperating fully. Detailed statement, body cam corroboration. He'll testify that Powell ignored multiple warnings that he knew it was wrong. And Martinez keeps his job reassigned. Traffic division. Probationary period. But yes. Maya nodded. Take the plea. 6 months is real time. The ban is permanent. And it establishes precedent. Next officer who does this knows there are consequences. The deal went through. Powell pled guilty, reported to federal prison 3 weeks later. Martinez testified in the civil case. His face pale, his voice shaking, but he told the truth. Every detail, every moment he should have intervened and didn't. I was wrong, he said on the stand. I should have stopped it. I didn't. That's on me. It didn't make things right, but it was something. Wilson never faced criminal charges. She resigned quietly to pursue other opportunities. The official statement said nothing about the 14 complaints, nothing about the pattern. But Maya's attorney dug deeper, found the complaints, filed them as evidence. 14 travelers over 6 years, all black, all Latino, all subjected to enhanced screening. Wilson personally ordered. All complaints dismissed by internal review. The system protected her, the attorney said, until it couldn't anymore. Wilson disappeared from public view. Maya heard later she was working for a private security company. Different state, different uniform, same problem. Some people never learned. 3 months after the hearing, the changes started appearing. TSA implemented mandatory federal law enforcement recognition training. Every agent, every supervisor. Quarterly refreshers. Test scores tracked. Failures meant reassignment. Houston IAH created a civilian oversight board. Real authority. Real power to investigate complaints. Monthly public meetings. Data published online. The Department of Justice issued new guidance on pretextual stops in transportation hubs. Clear standards, specific prohibitions, enforcement mechanisms. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't enough. But it was movement. Maya watched the announcements, the press releases, the official statements from agencies promising to do better. She wanted to believe them, wanted to think 27 minutes had changed something fundamental. But she'd been in law enforcement too long to be naive. Systems didn't change because one person got arrested. They changed because people kept pushing, kept documenting, kept demanding accountability. This was progress, but it wasn't victory. The work continued. 6 months after everything started, Maya received a call from Ramirez. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "Try me. Powell's out. Early release. Good behavior. Served 3 months of his 6-month sentence." Maya's jaw tightened. 3 months. For 27 minutes of humiliation. For violating every oath he'd ever taken. Where is he, Arizona? Working private security. Some contractor firm. Of course. Different badge, different jurisdiction, same authority to make people's lives difficult. And there's something else. Ramirez continued. TSA released their annual data. Black travelers are still 2.3 times more likely to receive enhanced screening than white travelers nationwide, even with all the new training. Maya closed her eyes. So nothing's really changed. Policy changed, Ramirez said. People are still people. She hung up, sat in silence. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. She almost deleted it, but something made her open it. No message, just an attachment. PDF. She downloaded it, started reading. It was an internal Houston Airport police memo dated 2 weeks before her arrest. Subject line, high-profile traveler alert. Her blood went cold. The memo listed names, travelers flagged for additional scrutiny, enhanced screening protocols, supervisor notification required. Maya's name was on the list. Her name, her photo, her federal credentials. Flagged 2 weeks before she ever walked into that terminal. This wasn't random. This wasn't Powell's ego. This was planned. She scrolled to the bottom of the memo. Authorization signature required for distribution. The name was redacted, blacked out, but she could see the title underneath. Deputy Director, Airport Security Operations. Someone above Donovan. Someone above Powell. Someone who'd put her name on a list and set everything in motion. She pulled out her grandfather's compass, flipped it open. The needle swung, settled north. She'd thought the fight was over, thought Powell's arrest and the policy changes meant justice had been served. But this memo changed everything. Someone had targeted her deliberately, methodically, and they were still out there. Maya slid the memo into her case file, took a photo, sent it to her attorney, with one word, discovery. Then she checked her compass one more time. True north always. The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. The sky over Washington, D.C. was gunmetal gray the morning Maya walked into the Department of Justice headquarters. Rain tapped against the windows, a steady rhythm like a metronome. She carried a black leather portfolio that held every document related to her case, every detail, every piece of evidence. Most importantly, the anonymous memo that had landed on her phone 6 weeks ago. She smoothed her jacket, felt the reassuring weight of her grandfather's compass in her pocket. The receptionist looked up. Deputy Marshal Jackson. "They're waiting for you in conference room 4. The DOJ Civil Rights Division had assembled what they called a task force. But what Maya knew was really a room full of prosecutors hungry for a major case. She'd been here before on the other side of the table, preparing case files for federal prosecution. Now she was both witness and evidence. The lead prosecutor, a black woman named Andrea Morris with 20 years' experience, had called this meeting. When Maya entered, Morris rose to shake her hand. "Thank you for coming," Morris said, then lowering her voice. "The memo you sent over. That changes everything." Maya nodded. "I thought it might." Around the table sat 6 other attorneys, 3 FBI agents and a data analyst. Coffee cups, laptops, stacks of documents. The machinery of federal prosecution warming up. "Let's get started," Morris said. "Deputy Marshal Jackson, walk us through your understanding of this memo." Maya laid out what she'd pieced together. The memo had flagged her for enhanced screening 2 weeks before her Houston trip. It included her photo badge number, flight patterns, and a note about her previous reports on profiling at IAH. "This wasn't random harassment," Maya said. "This was targeted retaliation for my previous complaints about discriminatory practices at that airport." Morris nodded, then looked around the table. "We've subpoenaed all IAH records related to their traveler alert system. What we've found is troubling." A data analyst named Rodriguez tapped his laptop. A projection appeared on the wall. Spreadsheets, data tables, metrics. "They've been operating what they call a security prioritization program for 3 years," Rodriguez explained, "supposedly to flag high-risk travelers. But our analysis shows clear racial patterns in who gets flagged. Of the 2,147 travelers on their current watch list, 73% are people of color." "And the memo authorization?" Maya asked. Morris's expression hardened. "That's where it gets interesting. The signature was redacted, but we've traced it to Deputy Director Thomas Reynolds, head of security operations at IAH for the past 4 years. The one who's still employed there," Maya said. "For now," Morris replied. "We're expanding our investigation to include Reynolds specifically. Potential charges include conspiracy against rights, deprivation of rights under color of law, and witness retaliation." "How long has he known about my reports?" Maya asked. Rodriguez consulted his laptop. "Based on email records we've obtained, Reynolds was personally notified of each of your 3 previous complaints. He was the one who marked them all as unsubstantiated." Maya felt a cold certainty settle over her. "So he knew exactly who I was when he put me on that list?" "Yes," Morris confirmed. "And we believe this goes beyond you. The pattern suggests Reynolds has been targeting law enforcement officers who complain about profiling. We've identified 6 other cases with similar patterns." Maya thought about the 7 names her attorney had shown her. 7 black federal officers profiled at IAH. Now they knew why. "What happens next?" she asked. "Grand jury," Morris said simply. "We present our evidence, seek indictments against Reynolds and potentially others in the command structure who enabled this." Maya nodded. "And how can I help?" Testify, Morris said. "Not just about what happened to you, but about the broader pattern you observed. Your position as both a marshal and a victim gives you unique credibility." "I'll do it," Maya said without hesitation. Morris smiled slightly. "I thought you might say that." As the meeting wound down, one of the FBI agents approached Maya. "Deputy Marshal Jackson, I'm Special Agent Corcoran. I wanted to let you know that we've been monitoring online activity related to your case." Maya tensed. "What kind of activity?" "Mostly support, actually. Your congressional testimony has over 8 million views now. It's become something of a watershed moment." But Maya sensed the hesitation in his voice. "But we've also seen an uptick in threats against you and other officers who've spoken out. Nothing specific enough to warrant protective detail, but we're keeping an eye on it." Maya wasn't surprised. "Comes with the territory." "One more thing," Corcoran said. "Officer Martinez, the rookie who was with Powell." He's been receiving threats, too. Apparently some people aren't happy he cooperated with the investigation. Maya frowned. Martinez had made the wrong choice initially, but he'd stepped up afterward. Testified truthfully. That took its own kind of courage. Keep me updated on that, she said. As she left the building, rain still falling in sheets, Maya thought about Martinez. About Reynolds. About the 7 names on that list. About accountability and who paid what price. Her phone buzzed. Text from her mother. Just saw you on the morning news again. Proud of you, baby. Your grandpa would be too. Maya smiled slightly, checked her compass. Still pointing north. The machinery of justice was slow, but it was moving. The grand jury would convene in 2 weeks. Until then, she had work to do. Evidence to compile. Testimony to prepare. The fight continued. 2 weeks later, a federal courthouse in Houston. The grand jury had been in session for 3 days. Maya had testified for 6 hours, laying out her experience, the memo. The pattern of discriminatory practices she'd observed and reported. She sat in the hallway now, waiting. The hard bench pressed against her spine. The same spot where Officer Powell had driven his knee. Still tender, a constant reminder. The doors opened. Andrea Morris emerged, face unreadable. Maya stood. Well, she asked. Morris waited until they were alone in a conference room before responding. Indictments on all counts. Reynolds, Wilson, and 2 other supervisors in the chain of command. Conspiracy against rights. Deprivation of civil rights. Witness retaliation. Maya exhaled slowly. When will they be arrested? FBI is serving warrants as we speak. Morris consulted her watch. Should be in custody within the hour. Maya nodded, processing this. And Powell, no additional charges. His plea agreement stands. That made sense. Powell had been a tool, not the architect. He'd been played as much as Maya had, though in a very different way. His bias had made him the perfect instrument for Reynolds' retaliation. Morris gathered her papers. There will be pre-trial motions discovery, the usual delays. Trial probably won't start for 6 months. You okay with the long haul? I'm not going anywhere, Maya said. Later that afternoon, Maya watched the news from her hotel room. Thomas Reynolds being led out of IAH in handcuffs. The man who'd flagged her name, who'd set the whole machine in motion. He looked smaller on TV. Ordinary. Not the mastermind she'd imagined, just a bureaucrat with power he'd abused. Her phone rang. Bennett. You seeing this? Her supervisor asked without preamble. Yes. Good work, Jackson. There was a pause. How are you holding up? Maya considered the question. Better now. The service is proud of you. Director wants you to know that personally. Thank you, Mom. There's something else, Bennett said. The congressional testimony you gave? It's having an impact. TSA is implementing new protocols nationwide. Federal officer recognition training, bias audits, civilian oversight. Real changes. Maya thought about Powell in Arizona, about Wilson at her new security job, about the data showing black travelers still 2.3 times more likely to face enhanced screening. Is it enough, she asked. No, Bennett admitted. But it's a start. And it wouldn't have happened without you. After they hung up, Maya sat looking out the hotel window at Houston's skyline, the sun setting behind glass towers, planes rising from IAH visible in the distance. Her phone buzzed again. Text from an unknown number. Deputy Marshal Jackson, this is Gabriel Martinez. I wanted to apologize again for what happened. I should have done more. I'm trying to make it right now. If you're willing, I'd like to talk. There's more you should know. Maya stared at the message. Martinez, the rookie who'd stood by, who'd eventually testified, who was now receiving threats for cooperating. She typed back, tomorrow. 10 a.m., coffee shop at the corner of Travis and McKinney. His reply came instantly. I'll be there. Thank you. She put the phone down, checked her compass again. The needle wobbled slightly, then settled on north. Some truths were constant, some paths clear. Justice wasn't just about punishment. It was about change, about making sure what happened to her couldn't happen to someone else, about holding the line. Reynolds would stand trial. The system that enabled him was being reformed, but the real work, the hard work, was just beginning. Maya Jackson had started this fight 14 years ago when she pinned on a badge and promised to uphold the law. For everyone, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. She wasn't finished yet. Not even close. The coffee shop was busy when Maya arrived the next morning. Business people grabbing their morning fix laptops, open phones buzzing. Normal life continuing while justice machinery ground forward in courtrooms across the city. Gabriel Martinez sat in a corner booth, hands wrapped around a mug. Shoulders hunched like he was trying to disappear. He looked up when she approached, half stood awkwardly. Deputy Marshal Jackson. Thank you for meeting me. She slid into the booth opposite him. It's Maya. He nodded, visibly nervous. Gabriel. A barista approached. Maya ordered black coffee, then focused on Martinez. You said there's more I should know. He glanced around, lowered his voice. Reynolds wasn't working alone. There's a whole network within airport police and TSA. They call themselves Guardians. They've been coordinating enhanced scrutiny of certain travelers for years. Mostly minorities, but also journalists, activists, anyone they consider problematic. Maya's expression remained neutral, but her mind was racing. How do you know this? After everything happened with you, after I testified, some of the senior officers started freezing me out, but a few they tried to bring me into the fold, said I could redeem myself by joining their cause, protecting America from the wrong elements. His disgust was evident. They have a private messaging group. I've been gathering evidence. You should take this to the FBI, Maya said. I did. Last week. They're expanding the investigation, but they wanted me to tell you personally, because it started with you, because you stood your ground that day. Maya studied him. The rookie who'd made the wrong choice then tried to make it right. Why are you doing this? She asked. You're risking your career, your safety. Martinez was quiet for a moment. My grandfather crossed the border with nothing but the clothes on his back. Worked construction for 40 years. Never complained even when people treated him like he didn't belong. He used to tell me, in this country, the uniform means something. It means you protect everyone, not just people who look like you. He met Maya's eyes. I failed that day. Failed him. Failed you. I'm not going to fail again. Maya nodded slowly. She understood what it meant to carry a family legacy, to try to honor those who came before. The FBI will need you to testify again, she said. It won't be easy. I know. You'll face retaliation. Professional, maybe personal. I know that too. She considered him for a long moment. There's a position opening in the Marshal service, Witness Security Division. They need someone with police background for coordination with local departments. Martinez's eyes widened slightly. Are you offering me a job? I'm suggesting you apply. We need people who understand what's at stake, who've seen both sides of the system. Why would you help me after what happened? Maya touched her pocket, felt the outline of her grandfather's compass. Because what matters isn't the mistake. It's what you do after. When she left the coffee shop an hour later, Maya felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Not naive optimism, but the hard-earned hope of someone who'd seen the worst of the system and still believed it could be better. Reynolds would stand trial. The Guardians network would be exposed. Martinez would have a chance at redemption, at being the kind of officer his grandfather could be proud of. And Maya Jackson would keep fighting, keep pushing, keep holding the line. One case at a time. One day at a time. True north always. 6 months after the arrest, Maya walked back into Houston Intercontinental Airport Terminal C, the same terminal where everything had changed. Her heart was racing, hands slightly unsteady. She told herself this was routine, just passing through on a layover on the way to a fugitive transport in Dallas. But nothing about this felt routine. She walked through the main concourse, past the shops and restaurants, past the travelers dragging luggage and checking phones, past the life that kept moving while hers had stopped for 27 minutes. Checkpoint C7 was ahead. The same checkpoint, the same scanners. Different agents, probably, but the same space where Powell had decided she was a problem. She got in line, credential case in her pocket, ready this time. Prepared. But as she approached, something was different. New signs on the walls, large, visible, bias-free security. Respect every traveler. Another sign, Federal Law Enforcement Officers, please identify yourself to checkpoint supervisor. Small changes, but real. She stepped up to the podium, handed over her ID and boarding pass. The TAE agent, young Latino professional, scanned her ID. His screen lit up. She saw his eyes flick to whatever information populated his display. His entire demeanor shifted. "Deputy Marshal Jackson," he said quietly. "Respectful. You can proceed through the standard line. No additional screening necessary. Not because she demanded it, not because she'd threatened anything. Because the system recognized her now. Because her credentials actually meant something." "Thank you," she said. She walked through the metal detector. No alarm, no hands reaching for her bag, no radio calls about a problem at checkpoint 7. Just normal the way it should have been 6 months ago. She collected her bag, walked toward her gate, and stopped because someone was watching her. A young black woman, college-age, nervous, clutching a backpack with university pins on it. She'd been standing near the checkpoint, and now she was walking toward Maya. "Excuse me," the woman said, voice soft, uncertain. I'm sorry, I don't mean to bother you, but are you Deputy Marshal Jackson?" Maya turned. "I am." The woman's face lit up. "I saw your testimony. The congressional hearing. I watched it 3 times. Yeah, I'm studying criminal justice at University of Houston." She paused, seemed to gather courage. "I've wanted to be in law enforcement since I was 12, but everyone told me, my family, my guidance counselor, everyone, that it wasn't for people like me, that I'd never make it, that the system would break me." She looked at Maya, eyes bright. "But then I saw you. Saw what you went through, saw you stand up there and tell the truth, and I thought, if she can do that, if she can fight back and win, maybe I can too." Maya felt something shift in her chest. This was why the fight mattered. Not just for her, for everyone who came after. She reached into her bag, pulled out a business card. U.S. Marshal Service. Her name, her office number. "What's your name?" Maya asked. "Jasmine. Jasmine Taylor. Jasmine. When you graduate, and you will graduate, you call me. We'll talk about what comes next. The Marshal Service needs people like you. People who understand what it means to be on both sides of the system." Jasmine took the card like it was gold. "Thank you. You have no idea what this means." "I think I do," Maya said gently. Jasmine walked away, kept looking back, smiling, holding that card. Maya continued to her gate, sat down. 30 minutes until boarding. She pulled out her grandfather's compass, flipped it open. The needle swung, settled north. 6 months ago, she'd sat in a holding room wondering if anything she'd done mattered, wondering if 14 years of service would be erased by 27 minutes of someone else's bias. Now she knew the answer. Justice isn't given. It's not even earned. It's fought for inch by inch, case by case, body cam frame by body cam frame. And sometimes it's as simple as standing still while the world tries to make you move. Her grandfather had taught her that. Not with words, with his life. 3 were countless missions, a military that didn't want black pilots but got them anyway. True North isn't a place, he told her once. It's a principle. She'd kept hers. Even when they tried to take everything else, the compass needle held steady. North. Always north. Her phone buzzed. Email notification. She almost ignored it, but the sender name caught her eye. Reynolds' case update. She opened it. The pre-trial motion had been denied. Thomas Reynolds and the other defendants would stand trial next month. No delays, no special treatment. The justice system for once moving at a reasonable pace. Another email from Morris at DOJ. Network investigation expanding. 20 more officers identified across 5 airports. This is bigger than we thought. Then a text from Bennett, director, approved your proposal. Federal Law Enforcement Identification Training Program launches next quarter. Your lead instructor if you want it. Maya smiled slightly. The program she'd proposed after her congressional testimony. Training TSA agents nationwide to properly recognize and respect law enforcement credentials, regardless of who carried them. She texted back, "I want it." Her boarding announcement came over the speakers. Her flight. Dallas, another case, another fugitive, another day doing the work she'd spent 14 years learning to do. She stood, grabbed her bag, started walking toward the gate. As she handed over her boarding pass, she thought about Reynolds, about the Guardians network, about the investigation that was still expanding, about Jasmine Taylor with her university pins and her dreams of a badge, about Martinez applying to the Marshal service trying to make amends, about all of it. She boarded the plane, found her seat window. She always chose window now. As the plane lifted off, she looked down at Houston. At the airport that had tried to break her, at the city that had watched her fight back. The compass was in her pocket. True north. Not perfection, not victory, not even justice, not the complete kind anyway, just the refusal to stop pointing in the right direction. Maya Jackson closed her eyes, let the plane carry her toward Dallas, toward the next case, the next challenge. 14 years and counting. Still standing, still fighting, still earning her wings one day at a time. 1 year later, Maya stood at the podium in the TSA Training Academy, Arlington, Virginia. Before her sat 50 instructors from airports across the country, each responsible for going back and training hundreds of agents in their home facilities. Law enforcement credentials don't all look the same, she said, advancing her slide to show the variety of badges, IDs, and permits carried by different agencies. But respect should be universal, regardless of the person carrying them. In the year since Houston, Maya had developed the Federal Law Enforcement Identification Program from concept to nationwide implementation. Today was the culmination, training the trainers who would take this knowledge back to every major airport in America. She glanced to the back of the room where Olivia Bennett stood, watching, arms crossed, a small smile of approval on her face. Next to her, the new TSA director, installed after congressional hearings, had forced a leadership overhaul. Questions, Maya asked, finishing her presentation. A hand went up. TSA supervisor from Miami. What about officers who aren't in uniform? How do we verify without profiling? Good question, Maya said. That's why we've implemented the Federal Officer Database. Any law enforcement credential can be verified electronically in under 30 seconds. No assumptions, no guesswork, just facts. The database had been her idea too. A secure system that any TSA agent could access to quickly verify federal credentials without subjective judgment. After the session ended, Bennett approached. Impressive work, Jackson. Thank you, Ma'am. How's the case going? Maya knew which case she meant. Reynolds. The trial had concluded 3 months ago. Guilty on all counts. 8-year sentence, no parole in the federal system. Appeals process starting, Maya said. Defense claiming insufficient evidence of racial motivation. Bennett snorted. Good luck with that. The network investigation is the bigger piece now. 37 officers identified across 8 airports. 10 have pled guilty already. Progress. Bennett nodded. Slow, but real. They walked together toward the exit. Outside, the Virginia summer was in full swing, humid and bright. "I've got news," Bennett said. "Director is creating a new division, civil rights compliance within the Marshal Service, making sure we're holding ourselves to the same standards we're demanding from others." Maya glanced at her. And he wants you to head it. Promotion to Chief Deputy. New office staff of 12. Report directly to headquarters." Maya stopped walking. "That's significant. It's necessary," Bennett said. "What happened to you shouldn't happen to anyone wearing a badge. We need someone who's been there, who understands both sides." "I'll think about it," Maya said. Bennett smiled. "You already know your answer, Jackson, but take the time anyway." Later that evening, Maya sat in her apartment, phone in hand. She'd called her mother, told her about the promotion offer. "That's wonderful, baby," her mother said. "Chief Deputy, your father would be so proud." "It's a desk job," Maya said. "Administrative. Policy. Its impact," her mother corrected. "The kind that ripples out, reaches places you can't go personally." After they hung up, Maya pulled out the compass. The silver was polished now, gleaming under her living room light. She'd had it professionally cleaned, the mechanism checked and oiled. Good for another 80 years, the jeweler had told her. She opened it, watched the needle settle. North. Always north. Her phone buzzed. Text from Gabriel Martinez. He'd completed his application to the Marshal Service, passed the initial screening. Interview next week. Was she still willing to provide a reference? She texted back. "Absolutely, you've earned it." Then another text, this one from Jasmine Taylor. She'd made Dean's List, was applying for an internship with the FBI for next semester. "Your example keeps me going on the hard days," she wrote. Maya smiled, typed back. "Keep pushing. It's worth it." She set the phone down, looked again at the compass. True North wasn't a place. It was a principle. But it was also a direction, something you moved toward, not something you reached. The work continued. Always would. But now there were others carrying it forward too. Martinez with his second chance. Jasmine with her dreams and determination. The 30 TSA instructors who'd return to their airports tomorrow, carrying new knowledge, new standards. Change happened slowly then, all at once. A badge that meant the same thing no matter who carried it. A system that recognized its flaws and worked to correct them. A world where standing still and asking questions didn't end with your face pressed to cold tile. Not perfect, not complete, but moving in the right direction. Maya Jackson closed the compass, set it on her nightstand where she'd see it first thing tomorrow morning. Another day, another chance to earn her wings. True North, always. If this story moved you, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our new content. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message about courage, dignity, and standing your ground in the face of injustice. Have you or someone you know experienced discrimination that went unchallenged? Let us know in the comments. Your story matters and deserves to be heard. Remember, real change happens when we refuse to look away, when we document injustice, and when we hold firm to our principles, our true north, even when the world tries to make us move. Together we can create a more just world, one truth at a time.